Good evening, everybody. Yeah, there's somebody borrowed the little thing that goes around the speaker, so it's going to end, it's going to echo. Anyhow, this is our regular commission meeting, November 1st at 7 p.m. And Shante, would you please call the roll?
Good evening, Mayor O'Happen,
Present.
Vice Mayor Samaria.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gonzalez. Commissioner Hammelberg,
Present.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Samaria, pledge allegiance, please. Are there any additions, deletions, or withdrawals to the agenda?
Yeah, I have a couple of things, Judy.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kennedy.
So I want to talk about a couple of the big things that are on the agenda tonight. We have three very big items. Two of them are first reading of ordinances, the land development code and dwelling units. Both of them were my items, so clearly I have an interest in seeing these things completed. And then also 12A, which is our ongoing swale discussion. These are really big items, guys, and we have an election 1 week from tonight with as few as one and as many as three commissioners joining this group at the December meeting, at which point the two items that are at first reading tonight would be at second reading for ordinance and would become the law of Biscayne Park if they were to pass. I think they're too big of an item to put to burden a brand new commission with on their very first meeting, when they have not had their opinion considered by vote on these matters, and when they would be then tasked with pushing this through. I think it's too much.
You want to,
I would like to I would like to push 10B as in boy, land development code, and 10C dwelling units to the December meeting. And then I also want to discuss, I mean, if you think about it, they're going to vote on this and their names get stuck on those things forever. And then I also want to discuss pushing swales as well. So this is a discussion. Nothing's been decided here yet. It's an ongoing conversation.
you want this 12A to be,
12A to be pushed to December as well.
and what was
And-
the other number?
10B is in boy and 10C is in Charlie. Swales it's a big issue. I mean, it started off as, it wasn't managed well right from the start. So really, we've been dancing around sort of one little tiny piece at a time. And first it was people up in arms about plants because they saw what was in the code that we were considering. And then it was another thing, and we're piecemealing this thing at best. And this commission, for some reason, is considering like some major substantive changes to a big part of our code that impacts a lot of residents. I think that merits a workshop.
Okay, so you want 10B, 10C, and
And
12A.
12A.
What merits a workshop? I missed that.
The swale conversation. At this point, it is such a big
10B.
swirling thing, and people are very upset about it. Yeah, okay.
Take a vote.
Well, I'm not
10B,
done. I'm not done.
10C, and
Hold on,
Well, you can,
Mayor. Wait. Go ahead, because I do have a comment.
okay. Well, do you want to comment on that first? Because I was going to add something.
So I don't have an issue with tabling any of the items. My only concern is for item 12B as in boy, which is the land development code. We do have our former planner, Alex David here, who's been working on the project. Postponing it will not only incur additional costs to the village, but also extend the meetings. The commission that has been here for a year discussing that item can definitely still partake and do it. So out of courtesy, I'd ask to keep that item on board, but if not, then I will work with Alex and his company to see if there's any additional costs for me.
Well, I would ask that Alex would consider helping us out here on this. I mean, we've been working together very nicely through this process, and we had to wait a couple of times for some things too. So, stuff happens. Yeah, stuff happens. So Alex seems to be okay with it. I'm more concerned with the up to 3 new commissioners that will be coming in here, and specifically for the swale ordinance, I think residents need to be heard in a much bigger way. I want to add something, conversation at the end under new business if we have time. And that is regarding the additional dwelling units. Now, I'm asking for the ordinance for additional dwelling units to be pulled. We have a visitor here. I'm asking for it to be pulled, but I would like to discuss as a separate item the enforcement of the additional dwelling units, because we have that issue happening right now. We had a property, while I was gone on vacation, a property that sold. I don't know if it closed, but I understand that it sold. And it has an additional dwelling unit in it. So one of them got through. One of the things we're trying to prevent got through. And so I want to hold the first reading of the ordinance until December, but I'd like to have a conversation about what we might be able to do to enforce in the meantime, because this thing may not get approved for a couple more months. And in the meantime, properties are closing and it's happening. So I'd like to have a conversation about what enforcement might be possible in the meantime.
Okay, are there any comments on that or on postponing all of these items? Judy?
I think it's Commissioner Kennedy's idea to quiet our voices, but I'm not real sure.
It's my desire to allow for residents to have a greater voice, and to these new people. Judy, there will be up to 3 commissioners voting to make it law in December. And I want to make sure that they're fully involved in something. We don't, look, there's enough drama going on. And we have some friends from a neighboring community that are dealing with their own drama right now. I'm trying to minimize that and let things happen in the right way rather than what's convenient for us. Look, 2 of these items were mine: McMansions, Land Development Code, and the additional dwelling units. Those are my items. I brought them to this commission. I have pushed very hard to get them through, especially the Land Development Code. I'm the champion for those things. I have no interest in delaying it another minute, but I'm more interested in getting it done right than getting it done fast. That's my point.
But
And I commend you for not wanting to do drama because you have been the drama king.
Judy, are we going to go there?
Mike,
Okay, let's
Really?
continue.
From the first meeting you showed up here, you flew in
Excuse me,
and brought drama with you.
excuse me. Commissioner, Vice Mayor Samaria,
my concern is that you're assuming that there's going to be up to 3 new commissioners.
just discuss,
No, I'm
just
against, no,
discuss the
I
item.
am
Yeah,
not,
it's not an assumption, it's a fact. There will
I'm
be
not-
between 1 and 3.
I'm
new
against
commissioners
moving the
next month.
items. I think as a commissioner, we have a responsibility, so I don't want to move the
You
item.
don't want to adjourn them. What about you, Commissioner Gonzalez?
I had a conversation with Mario today, and I told him that I was fine with moving the items because I do think that there is a possibility that we could have 3 new people here, and these are big items. As far as the swale conversation is concerned, I don't know what the big changes are, because I think we've had pretty much consensus on most of the stuff already. And that is Commissioner Samaria's topic. So I would defer to him if he, the other 2, I'm fine with Commissioner Kennedy. As far as the swale is concerned, I think that, I'm going to defer to Commissioner Samaria. And I'm okay with moving forward with that conversation.
Keep in mind, please, that if we have the conversation about swales, and look, if you want to have the conversation, I'll have it. But we have yet to have a substantive, I hate when I can't see you, Art, when I'm addressing you. We have yet to have a substantive line by line, conversation about this. We pulled one little thing out and a firestorm and then something else, but we have yet to go through it. We really haven't done it right yet still. And if we do this tonight and Valerie takes, and we get through it tonight and when Valerie writes it up, it'll come back as a first reading of an ordinance. No, swales is not. Yeah, it's a draft, but it could come back at first reading. And now we have up to, Dan, up to 3 new commissioners. I didn't say 3 were arriving. I said up to. Between 1 and 3, I made that abundantly clear. But as many as 3 new commissioners arriving here, voting at first reading. For folks who don't understand what that means, that's how we make a law. 2 readings. First reading, second reading, it's the law of the land. So we'd have up to 3 new commissioners voting on something that they weren't involved in. Now, could they have been involved as residents? Certainly they could have, but it's not the same as sitting up here voting on things.
Is there any, on the swale ordinance, is there any objection to putting that over till December 1st meeting? Vice Mayor Samaria? I would be in favor of putting that over till December 1st. How about you, Commissioner Hamelberg?
For a short meeting.
Let it be where it be. It's been a year we've been dealing with it. It's been a year we've been dealing with it. If you guys want to drag it out more, go right ahead.
I mean, it's easy for me to, I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Kennedy, and I respect that, but it is easy for me to say, yeah, let's move it to December. I want to deal with it. I'm a
Well,
commissioner.
I think we all want to deal with it. Clearly.
Mr. Gonzalez, do you want to put the whale item to December 1st or on tonight?
Yeah, I'm fine with moving it to December.
Okay. I think Vice Mayor, you said yes, right? Judy? Right, so we're going to move the swale ordinance over till the December 1st meeting. Okay, on the 10B, the one that Alex is here to talk on it. I think we ought to let that one stay. Commissioner Hammelberg? Mario would like it discussed tonight also, as well as we have the person from Giordano here.
Well, to be clear, Alex said he's okay if we push it back.
I have no problem with discussing it tonight,
You have no problem?
with discussing it tonight.
Okay,
It's not a discussion. It's a first reading and a vote as an ordinance.
Yeah, I'm okay with moving it to December 1st.
I'm sorry. Okay, what about you, Vice Mayor? Mario?
Excuse me, Mr. Manager, did you say you wanted to keep it or you wanted to move it?
It's up to the commission. My only concern is with the project creep that would occur. But if the planners is willing to move it, it's up to the commission. December 1st. I'm sorry.
December.
Yeah, okay,
Okay, then we could do it in January.
I'd be in
There's a new
favor of
commission.
discussing it tonight. Commissioner Kennedy?
It's a first reading. It's not a discussion, folks. Make sure you're clear. It's a first
Reading, right.
reading of a new law. Be clear on that. That's different.
Okay,
And it should be tight.
so you want it adjourned, Commissioner Hammelberg, you don't mind the discussion tonight?
So it's going to be put off till January.
December.
No, it'll be January. He said
Alex can't be here in
January?
December. It would be January.
Okay. You want to
And
put it
that-
over till January?
I think it just makes it more difficult on the P and Z people because they don't have our backing on the standards that we tried to put forward.
Okay,
but-
and
They've been functioning with
Commissioner
our existing code for
Gonzalez, you in
30 years.
favor of putting it over till January? And, okay, so we will put that over till January, and then we have 10C. Is everybody in favor of putting that over till the December 1st meeting?
That's the easiest one. If you wanted to keep one on, that's the easiest one to keep on. But again, my issue is, I think we can crank that one out kind of fast because it's a, no offense meant, it's a more of a copy paste than some of the other things that we've written. But again, it's still a new commission coming in to be handed second reading of an ordinance and turning something into law that they haven't been intimately involved in. And just take issue with that. I think it's irresponsible for us with new commissioners.
All right, Commissioner Hammelberg, okay?
Fine.
Gonzalez, okay? And Vice Mayor Maria, okay?
Okay.
Okay, we are moving 10B, 10C, and 12, discussion, 12A, till December 1st and the January meeting.
Thank you for coming, Alex.
Do we need a motion?
And then I have my other one. I would just want to add,
Motion on that? Or
do you need me to put my other one in there too? I said I wanted to add something, a discussion about an enforcement topic.
what else?
That's it. That's it. I just want to make sure I'm going to make a motion for all four things.
So
Where are you putting the?
what's the fourth thing that you wanted?
Fourth one is dwelling unit. So in the meantime, I want to have a discussion about how that might be enforced. I don't know. I want to have a discussion. I don't know what the answer is going to be about how we could possibly enforce some of these dwelling unit things in the meantime. That's all. Just have Mario talk to us about that.
Okay.
It's a conversation.
We'll make-
So I'll make a motion for those four items, please.
You want to make the motion?
Motion for all four items, please, to be
Okay.
three moves and one addition.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Commissioner Kennedy made the motion. Commissioner Gonzalez seconded it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that's passed. We are going to recognize Commissioner Sally Hayman, who could not make it tonight. She's at a county commission meeting and she was going to try to come first, but she couldn't make it. But I will read into our record a proclamation. Getting old. Today, friends, family members, and well-wishers join with the Village of Biscayne Park Commission and staff in recognition of an exemplary community leader, the Honorable Sally Hayman. And for the past 22 years, Commissioner Sally Hayman has sat at the helm of one of the most progressive and dynamic communities in Miami-Dade County. Sally Hayman began her extensive community service and political career as a member of the City of Miami and North Miami Beach Police Departments. Later was elected as council to the City of North Miami Beach, and in 1994 was elected to the Florida Legislature. In September of 2002, Commissioner Hayman was elected to the Miami-Dade County Commission after serving 4 consecutive terms in the Florida Legislature. In her tenure as the County Commissioner of District 4, Sally Hayman proactively addressed changes and challenges unprecedented in the modern history of Miami-Dade County. Under her stewardship, Commissioner Sally Hayman always assisted and guided the Village of Biscayne Park, initiating on-demand transit services, assisted the village with traffic concerns, assisted in the response to Hurricane Irma, had the county work with the village on much-needed infrastructure through SIT-5, secured several donations for the Biscayne Park Police Department. I, Virginia O'Halpin, Mayor, along with my colleagues of the Village Commission, Vice Mayor Dan Samaria, Commissioners Art Gonzalez, Judy Hamelberg, and McDonald Kennedy, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, November 1st, 2022, as the Honorable Sally Hayman Day. And I can't say enough for her. She really has assisted in everything that I've ever asked her to do. She really is wonderful, and she was a great asset to all of us. Okay. Do you want me to put Dan first? No, okay. Sanche, they're going to do it for me.
Yes, at this time, Mayor O'Happen, we would like to honor you and thank you for your service. The proclamation read as is. Virginia O'Happen has honorably and faithfully served the Village of Biscayne Park and was chosen by the commission to serve as mayor in January 2020 and has served faithfully in her role since then. And Virginia O'Halpin has distinguished herself as a dedicated and well-respected citizen of the Village of Biscayne Park who has displayed a commitment to public service. Virginia O'Halpin has served with integrity, dedication, and inclusion to improve the Village of Biscayne Park, and the Village of Biscayne Park wishes to thank Virginia for her hard work and dedication to preserving the village's heritage and promising future for generations to come. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, along with our residents and staff, wish to thank Virginia O'Halpin for her dedicated service to the Village of Biscayne Park for nearly 3 years. Done and resolved this first day of November 2022, signed by the Village Clerk along with the Village Commission.
Thank you. Okay. I'd just like to say thank you. It's been my honor to represent Biscayne Park in Miami-Dade County, dealing with the mayor, Daniela Levine Cava, and all the other mayors like myself. And it's been my pleasure. Thank you. Vice Mayor Samaria, you will
Thank-
read the next proclamation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Veterans Day. Whereas our veterans represent the very best of America. They have bravely served the call to serve in the finest military force in the world, and they have earned the dignity that comes with wearing the uniform and defending our great flag. And in 1975, Congress voted to make November 11th Veterans Day in honor of our veterans, living and dead, who served in the armed forces almost a century after President Lincoln authorized the establishment of the Bedford National Cemetery as a final resting place for those who serve. And on Veterans Day, we honor all Americans who have served in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, both in times of war and peace. And whereas Veterans Day gives us time to pay due respect to our veterans and a humble thank you to our veterans and their families as we remember and honor their service. And on Veterans Day, we remember those heroes for their valor, loyalty, and dedication, and encouraging all Americans to recognize the fortitude and sacrifice of veterans through public ceremonies and private throughout thoughts and prayers. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in absence of Veterans Day, Monday, November 11, 2022, Village of Biscayne Park proudly joins the rest of our nation to serve, salute, and give special honor and recognition to the men and women who served us in our armed forces. Dated this first day of November 2022, Mayor Virginia Harper and the village clerk. Thank you.
Thank you. Dante, would you do the Halloween decorating contest winners, please? I see we have one of our winners here.
Sure. And Mayor, I just want to thank everyone for participating this year, as well as the judges. At this time, if Jonathan Groth and his family is here, if they would come to the front. They won for Best Decoration for Kids. The next home that was selected was The Scariest House. I don't believe they are in attendance. However, they were selected. That is Beto Romero and Jessica Steinberg. And we would like to mention, honorable mention, Best Decoration for Kids, Karen and Steve Bruce. Thank you all. If you all would.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, she's scary, huh? Are you scary? You all remember the days of little children? Perfect, right. Okay, I'd like to open up the floor for public comments. Dan Keys will be our first. Oh, that's perfect. Perfect.
He's 1107 118th Street.
It's not on.
It is.
It's on, I'm just not close enough.
Closer, yeah. Thank you.
I want to thank you for moving those items to January. Particularly, I was concerned with 2022-14, the one that deals with large homes. I really think it needs more work. I would like to see, once there's an ordinance, that there is a community presentation and that the public has an opportunity. I know first reading is an opportunity to comment, but you have 3 minutes and that's not enough for what needs to be said. But I'd like to see, an open discussion of the community as to how they understand it and if they're an architect or what have you, whether or not the changes really make sense. And I really would like to see the document vetted by some architects, send it out to 10, 15 local architects and say, read this, does it make sense? Where is it confusing? How is it really going to hinder you in producing a beautiful building for our community? We're all investors in this community, not just the spec builders that may come in and try to build homes. I'm very much concerned with the impact on property values and whether people will want to come in and build a $1, $2, $3 million home in Biscayne Park on some of these lots, mine being one of them. We're having homes selling for $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 that are being torn down, and there needs to be a return on investment for a spec builder or for a private owner that wants to come in and build a house here in Biscayne Park. We want the best product that we can get, and as same with the swale ordinance. I think that we need to throw out a document, have open discussion in the community, with all intent and not trying to curtail an open discussion happening, even if that doesn't include the commission, tell you the truth, where it can be monitored by the manager and just hear what the commentary is. I think that we can come up with an ordinance regarding swales that both pleases people that like plant material and want to do some planting on the swale, and those that are concerned with triangles of visibility and other parking issues and so forth. I really do believe that we can do that. And I think that, that's an item that would bring this community together with the proper amount of discussion happening. Going back to the previous comment, and I know I'm running long. We have, I'm going to say 50, 60 buildings in Biscayne Park that are 2-story structures that have been here since the 30s and the 40s that would today violate the ordinance that is being proposed. So consider that. I want to thank the mayor for her work, and I want to thank the rest of the commission for your work. May the best people win in this coming election. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Very good. Please state your name and your address.
Janet Goodman, 1174 Northeast 105 Street. I live in my yours. I'm here tonight to alert the Biscayne Park Commission and constituents of a possible increase in traffic through your community. On December 6th, Miami Shores Village Council will be voting on proposed comprehensive plan changes, which include a disproportionate increase in population density. They are proposing 859 additional dwelling units at a Barry University property. This increase alone exceeds Miami Shore Village's annual growth rate of about 1%. They are proposing 37 additional dwelling units along Biscayne Boulevard and 105th Street and 359 additional dwelling units along Northeast 2nd Avenue. This would be a total increase of 3,752 people to our current population of 11,567, which is a 30% increase in population. These additional Miami Shores citizens will increase traffic. Estimated new car trips per day are over 5,000. Earlier discussions regarding density increases included along Biscayne Boulevard from 91st Street to 89th Street. That added to the total would increase traffic by 10,000 new trips per day. No studies have been conducted to figure out how these density increases will affect our infrastructure and costs. Biscayne Park will see an increase in traffic along Griffin Boulevard, along Northeast 6th Avenue, and routes cutting through the heart of Biscayne Park to Northeast 123rd Street. Miami Shores' next council meeting is Tuesday, November 15th at 6:30. I invite the commission and your constituents to speak during public comments at this meeting. Please voice your concerns on how Miami Shores changes in density will affect your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, name and address also, please.
I'm Carol Ennis Respondic and Janet's neighbor, 1162 Northeast 105th Street. So I've lived there on our shared canal for over 30 years now. And I'm here mostly, first of all, to thank you for your support. Some time ago, when we were in the fight for no gas station along the
Gas station.
So we really appreciate your support because that is so important to us that appreciate water, appreciate nature and the environment. Thank you very much. And again, along the same lines, I understand that some of you are concerned about the potential Miami Shores comp plan that would increase density and heights up to 5 stories on the same lot that the gas station was proposed on, Biscayne and 105th Street, as well as downtown Miami Shores along Northeast 2nd, and also on the current vacant lots west of Berry. It's important that those of us who love our small communities and want to preserve the character of our villages and our single family homes to be present for all of this. We already have enough traffic. Each municipality is wrestling with stormwater runoff and failing, aging septic tanks that we still haven't converted to sewer. Our schools need attention and we do not have enough parkland. Doesn't make any sense to me to add the possibility of a lot more residents when we can't meet the needs of our current residents. I hope you will join us in urging the Miami Shores Council to fix the errors and omission in the current comp plan and to reject any ideas of increased density at the moment. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Carol, could you repeat
You
the
all have
date?
to remember that we're all part of the environment.
No, November 15th at what time? 6:30.
Okay, are there any other public comments with people here? Gage?
Hello. This thing fixed. Hi, Gabe.
Gage, can you talk into the microphone? Thanks.
Thank you, Gage. Are there any any other public comments here? Do we have any public comments at home? On Zoom? I don't see anyone.
We have David Raymond, Mayor.
Oh, David Raymond. David Raymond?
Yes, good evening, everybody. I'm David Raymond, 11520 Northeast 9th Avenue. And Madam Mayor, thank you for your service to the community. I know it's not an easy job to have, and I appreciate you doing it. And to the other commissioners who are running for re-election, good luck to everybody, and may the best human win. So I'm going to save some of the comments I had because Dan Keys said them better than I could have. I think the new code, and I appreciate you pulling those items until next meeting. The new code in terms of the construction for the two-story homes, you really do need to be an engineer or an architect to understand that. And I know that a lot of our codes here are either not written in a very user-friendly manner or perhaps not written well at all. And this one, I think we have to get right. So I do like Dan's suggestion about showing this to people because I truly didn't understand some of the things in terms of the second story and the 10% of this and that. I'm pretty good at math, but I'm not an architect or an engineer. And I think it would be helpful to have a group like that take a look at it. And I also would say that the landscaping requirements mentioned are all shoulds. So I'm not a great person of putting shoulds into code. To me, it should be really a must would be much better. But anyway, shoulds. The other thing I wanted to say, whatever Gage said before this, I didn't hear. I don't think anybody listening on Zoom could hear. We heard your response after, Madam Mayor, but we did not hear anything Gage said. The swale ordinance, thanks as well for moving that. And I will say to those commissioners that are running for re-election who've said that they, in the last public forum that they had with everybody together, saying how much they listened to the residents, please listen to the residents on this, and please don't bring it back before you have a discussion with everybody, because it's just the way it's written now. Nobody's going to be happy. You're going to have the same crowd out yet again. The FAA item, please support that the FAA really needs to have pressure to continue to try to get that changed. I don't know if we will or not. And finally, on 11C for grant writing, Robert Ruano is a gem of a human being and even better grant writer. So I'm glad that we have him on board this year. It's helped us with things, and it's great that you're going to continue, hopefully, to contract with him. Thank you for listening, and good night.
Are there any other on Zoom that want to speak?
Madam Mayor, I have one comment to read into the record if there are no others. Okay, so this is from Barbara and Gary Kuehl, 777 Northeast 111th Street. Mayor and Commissioners, we've both written to you explaining our concerns with Ordinance 2022-14. We have serious problems with the effect this will have on two-story construction and the future of multi-family homes in Biscayne Park. We strongly suggest you don't act on this tonight and instead let the newly seated commissioners decide whether they want to make these changes and also if residents really want these changes. Thank you.
Is that it? Just the one from Barbara Kill? Okay. Okay, seeing no other hands, I'll close public comments and open up the commission reply to comments. Commissioner Kennedy, you want to go first?
Sorry, I was on another page. Real quick. So to the folks from Miami Shores, thanks for coming over, and we appreciate you sharing your concerns about what's happening there with what might happen here in our village, and I'll try to make it to the meeting. And I don't know how closely you follow what's going on here, but I've brought an item here regarding road safety and pedestrian safety, traffic here. And we've agreed to move forward in some way this year with a traffic study as a first step. And one of the reasons I did that was because I'm concerned about the development that's happening around us. So I'm not just looking at what's happening inside our village, but I'm looking at what's happening all around us. In addition to your developments, there's all kinds of things happening on across our northern border in North Miami. So I hear you and I appreciate you guys speaking out to us. And then, Gage, I should have, I'm sorry people didn't hear your comments. And I should have said this before when I was talking about moving the item. I really do appreciate all the work you put into it. And you and I have spent a lot of time talking about these things. So I just want you to hear from me now that I really do appreciate it. And I don't want you to think that me wanting to move this item, delaying it a little bit, is any indication that I don't appreciate what you guys did or lack of support for it. You know I'm the one who brought this a year and a half ago. So no one has as great an interest, no one has a greater interest than I do in getting this thing. So, and I know you guys are working really hard to protect us right now until we get this done. So believe me when I say I will do everything I can to make sure this gets done as quickly as possible and as well as it can be. All the things that you said could happen anyway with the new commission coming in at second reading. So we're going to take care of it. Don't worry. We'll make sure we get you a really, really good code. We'll get you a really good code when it's done. Thanks. That's all.
Vice Mayor Samaria, do you have any comments?
I just want to again thank you for participating and coming tonight. And hopefully, if I get reelected, I will definitely attend that meeting.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
I just want to thank Dan Keys for his positive nature this evening. It was very enlightening and I appreciate it.
Okay, Commissioner Hamilberg?
Ditto on that. Also, Gage, thanks for all the time you put in. We appreciate it. And for our friends in Miami Shores, we're with you all the way. And whether I win or I don't win, I still live in this community. I will be there if my schedule is clear on that day to support you. If not, I will put a letter out. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to ask for reports now, and Mario our manager has a report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The majority of the report is attached for you all to read, but there are a couple of things that have come up since the agenda has gone out that I just want to make the commission and the community aware. First and foremost, although he is not here, I want to give a big thank you to ISA, our police department, and our public works crews. Yesterday at the Halloween event, we had about 5,000 or 6,000 people within the village. So our population swelled a couple thousand. It was a fantastic event, a fantastic night. There were no major incidents that occurred. A lot of people walking and everybody was safe. I think at one point we had over 40 police officers on the streets. And that's to the amazing program that our chief was able to put together for our reserve officers and part-time officers. So thank you to staff for putting that together. I also want to announce staff related. Sadly, we have our public works director, Albert Dominguez, is going to be retiring at the end of the month. And so currently I am working with CAP, who's our building consultant. Part of their RFP and their contract allows for professional service hours, civil engineering and all that. So they're going to try to find a way to fill in the gaps, especially because we have active projects going on that will need their attention as we try to see how we're going to move forward. There's a couple different options that I'm looking at, and I'll bring that to your attention once I'm able to kind of do a little bit of analysis for the department. Additionally, we have FDOT. There's two things related to FDOT that I wanted to bring up. One, I'm finalizing a meeting with the district secretary. DOT had promised that by the end of the summer, we should have the speed limit painted on 6th Avenue, radar speed signs installed, and some other safety concerns. Obviously, the summer has passed. It is not gone. I still although we've asked multiple times, we still don't have an ETA. The last update that we received was that it was being finalized, the design, and they were waiting for the contractor to be able to do the installation. We also, in my opinion, have come to an impasse when it comes to the safety of the 121st Street and 6th Avenue crossing. Essentially, both North Miami and Biscayne Park police departments, when there's an accident, they refer to it as Northeast 6th Avenue, common name. However, the State Department, that is State Road 915. So when they queue up all the safety or traffic incidents that are occurring, and they look it up, there are no accidents on State Road 915. We have since made that correction, but their indication to us was, for those 3 years that you're giving for both North Miami and Biscayne Park, go back and edit the reports. We can't do that. And it's not feasible for us to do that. It's not 1 or 2 reports. So I'm going to be talking to the district manager, because one of the things, I'm sorry, to the district secretary, because one of the things that I'd like to do is just extend the median on 6th Avenue to prevent east and west type travel, which will then eliminate all the crash points that we've had on that avenue that we've recently, well, not recently, but have, in my opinion, become worse and worse. The next item is that DOT has awarded us tonight on the agenda. You have the receiving of a grant for $50,000. A little bit later, it's a resolution. We were just informed that for fiscal year 24, so for next fiscal year, we have won a $60,000 grant. And so that is also two items on the agenda tonight. So it's just right in time with our grant writer and the DOT accepting of the award. Additionally, tomorrow, the county is going to be hosting a flood mitigation meeting here at 6 p.m. from 6 to 7:30. This is in conjunction with not only the county applying for a grant for us for the retainage area on Northeast 113th and 6th Avenue, but also with their county-wide vulnerability and various studies and programs that they've got. So these outreaches, I believe they were also handing out flyers yesterday throughout the village. And lastly, well, 2 last points, and I apologize for the lengthy report. I posted on Nextdoor, and I just wanted for the record to state, this past week, I represented, and I had the honor to represent the village at 2 CITT meetings. One was their official board meeting in front of their board, in which staff had requested that I present where we were and where we are and where we're going. Very well received. A lot of kudos given to the village for getting things right and moving forward in a positive direction, and to being an example for other cities who are facing similar situations. And the following morning, which was Friday, in front of 20 municipalities, and gave them the same presentation, same spiel. What it all comes down to is we turned essentially $400,000 into $1 million project. And that is what we're able to move forward with, and leveraging the CITT funds. And so other cities have approached saying, how'd you do it? Why'd you do it? And how can we copy it? And so to be held as an example in the county in just under 2 years, I think is a lot of great work, not only from staff, but also from this commission that has supported me from the beginning into finding these resolutions and making those decisions, and sometimes hard decisions to move those projects forward. So I appreciate the support from the commission and from staff. And lastly, with regards to the property 826 Northeast 121st, which we call the B House, just to give you an update, the building official and I met with representatives from the property, their lawyer and their architect. We obviously have a disagreement where we believe that the property is more than 50% gone. In other words, the cost of renovating the property would cost more than 50% of the market value of the property. If that is the case, that then requires them to reconstruct the property to the existing land development code, which would mean a single-family home. They disagree with that assessment. The next step is that they are going to have structural engineers, architects, and do a full evaluation of the property to submit that to us. Our building official and our plan reviewers will then review that and decide whether they can renovate or not. They can always go to the county board and appeal our building official. It's called BORA over at the county, but they are working with us. So I do appreciate that. And they're hoping to be able to move forward. So once we know which way that goes, we'll continue to keep you updated. With that, that concludes my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mario. Are there any other commission reports?
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hamilton.
I'd like to welcome back a longtime resident, Vicky Sassani Mullen, to Biscayne Park. It's been about 2 years since a fire destroyed her home, but she has rebuilt and she is back, and it's wonderful. I wanted to mention that I attended the Miami-Dade League of Cities Symposium on climate change with the village manager on October 13th. Mario also attended the policing lecture. I want to thank Barbara Watts and Nancy Davis and the League of City of Women Voters for the Meet the Candidates Forum. I'd like to extend a special thanks for allowing me to attend by Zoom, as I was very sick with COVID and did not want to expose anybody to it. Halloween was an amazing success last night. We owe a big thank you to Isa and the entire recreation staff, as well as our amazing police department who are out there in force handing out candy, and our public works staff who are helping. Also, I want to mention that the Superfine Humane Society is looking for donations of clean newspapers to help them line their kennels. If you still get the newspaper, please save it. They have a donation box right in their front. If you can't get it to them, if you let me know, I will come and get it and bring it to them. And I did attend last week's special code meeting and the regular code compliance meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilberg. I just want to say I've got very good reports on you representing us on the Board of Directors of the League of Cities. And the League of Cities, just briefly, is a very important group that we belong to. We're one of the cities. And when COVID first started, and I got involved with that, that's when a lot of money came, federal money came. And we had a mayor at the time of Miami-Dade who was going to decide how to distribute money. And the league, all the mayors voted, stuck together, and we forced the division of the money because they weren't going to bother with little places like us. So the league is a very important tool that we use. Okay, are there any other commission reports?
Yeah, I'd like to first off thank, because there was commissioners that were at the event last night. The Halloween event has always been, I've always enjoyed that because we have always have outside people that come to our village. And as I was there yesterday handing out candy along with other commissioners, I had a lot of compliments from people that don't live in the village saying thank you for doing the event. Some of them were North Miami, some of them Miami Shores, and they said that they don't do that as well as we do over there. And at that event, we usually don't have any problems. So I want to congratulate staff. They did a real good job. I like the thing being outside. I think that was a good thing to move it instead of having a haunted house inside. And again, I want to thank all the residents that participated and that came by. And I just wanted to say congratulations to staff and to Issa for doing a good job and the police department for doing it. Thank you.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Sorry. Of course, I have to say congratulations, Mario. Your staff kills these special events. And kills is like an appropriate word for Halloween, right? They slayed Halloween, Mario. Nicely done. Okay, so I want to say a couple of things. First, I have been in contact with our state representative and senator in the past week regarding the 6th Avenue lights. Now, the lights were out on 6th Avenue for a while. They're back on now. I hope they're on to stay. It's a little fuzzy exactly how it all came together and how it all got corrected. Mario's still looking into that. So I'm not saying that that what our state elected officials did was the sole reason the lights got put back on, but they came on the next day. But the point of me bringing this up is it's the first time I've ever reached out to Dottie Joseph's office and Chevron Jones, our representative and senator respectively. And I spoke with the senator directly and many people on Representative Jones' staff and Joseph's staff, and they were responsive and really helpful and returned phone calls. I was so impressed. Like, we're Little Old Biscayne Park, and hi, I'm a commissioner and whoever met you, and they could not have been more responsive and genuinely wanting to help us out. And they really kind of like tried to move mountains in a day. So I'm not sure exactly what happened, but if they're listening, I just want them to know that I appreciate their response. And I kept Mario, obviously, I had his consent to do that and kept him apprised of what happened. There's something on the consent agenda I want to address really quickly now because it's going to get pushed through, and that is Drishti Plisk, who's been doing yoga classes. We're going to renew her contract tonight. And I talked to her yesterday just to say thanks for doing the classes and we appreciate you. And she said she's been doing them for decades. I didn't know that. She's been teaching yoga here for decades. It's awesome. I need to get to one of these classes. I could use a little Zen in my life. So I just wanted to let you know, let her hear that we appreciate her. I spoke already about what's going on in Miami Shores and what's also happening in North Miami. I would encourage residents to read the article in the Biscayne Times that came out today. It's specifically about the development in Miami Shores, but there's some information in there about North Miami as well. You might want to read that for some reference on what's going on around us. Okay, so I got invited to an event. I'm not sure why I got invited, but I did. It's the Coastal Mayors of Biscayne Bay, and they reached out to me and asked me to attend a luncheon tomorrow. It's an executive session on the water quality crisis in Northern Biscayne Bay. It's a roundtable discussion and a luncheon, and they asked me to attend. I explained I'm not the mayor, and they said, would you come anyway? And I said, I won't. I asked Mario if I could. He said, I can, but I said, I won't do that without the consent of the commission. I wouldn't go out and represent this village without you guys knowing I was going to go do it. So they're not going to make any decisions on anything. I honestly don't know. It's a roundtable conversation. So you guys okay if I go to this? And I also want to, and I said I would be extending the invitation to all of you as well. So if anybody wants to go, okay. So I'll forward this to Shantae and she can forward it to all of you. It's tomorrow from 11 to 12. It's just 11 to 12 and then a lunch. So I'll send this to you, Shantae. And if you would send that to the commissioners for me, I'd appreciate it. Are you guys cool if I go?
Have a good time. Don't eat too much.
Okay, so I'll send this to Shantae. If you guys want to go, you can let them know. And you'll know the person that you're emailing. It's, oh my God, I just blanked on her name. What's her name? Help me here. Rachel Strickfeld. She's a commissioner or a council person over in North Bay Village. Is that correct? And she's also, we all met her because she represented someone who came in here for a variance. So we met her as an attorney representing a client, but she's also an elected official and she's on this board and she invited me. So I wanted to let you guys know, wanted to sort of get your permission before I do that. Okay, so a couple of things I just want to kind of throw out there. The website, Mario, you and I have talked about this. It needs some dressing up a little bit. And if there's any way I can help, I have told you I would help before, and I just want to tell you again, there's some writing that needs to be taken care of and I can't help with some of the technical stuff on there, the photos that look odd and stuff, but our website is such an improvement over the one from before, but it does need some organizational help and some tightening up. So if there's anything I can do to help, I'm all yours on that. And I'd hope to see that get fixed soon. Last year's tree grant is done and closed. Quick question. I hate to put you on the spot because I just added this one. Did we request the replacements of the trees from last year's? We had a couple of trees that died that needed to be replaced that were guaranteed on the contract last year.
I will double check and get back to you, Commissioner.
Okay, I think there are 2 or 3. I'm not certain.
Okay.
But I think at one of the Parks and Parkways meetings, they were talking about that. And then
We did apply for this year's tree grant.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Okay, and then I think I understood you to say you're going to have a meeting with Tish Berger from FDOT. about the different things that didn't
District-
get done?
No, District Secretary Stacy Miller.
Okay. When you have that meeting, could you also add the topic of the streetlight, the consistency of the bulbs? Because it's an ongoing issue. It's the intensity and the temperature of the color of the bulbs is
Yeah,
really not very, it's not very premium when you drive through our village.
my question to her will be if the village can do anything, because DOT installed that per the contract, which they had approval from the prior village administration. So their contract, they fulfilled their
They
contract. as
fulfilled their
well.
contract.
Right. So the question is, what can the village do? My whole concern is on the liability. If we just start changing everything without their consent, then we assume all that liability. And unfortunately, that lamp, although pretty because it looks more historical and it looks old, is not conducive to really, I think, some of the residents' concerns on 6th Avenue. With the arm type of streetlights that we see in normal streets, even just south and north of us, you're able to direct the light towards the pavement. And you can put a shield in the back. However, with these, the way that the light glows is on a 360-degree angle. So they need to be even brighter to make sure that they cover the proper street. But for our residents, if we put that shield in the back, the light from across the street is still going to be shining through because they're almost across the street from each other. So there's not a lot of additional work that we can do to these lamps to lower the light going into the residence. So yes, I know it's the 2500 luminums, which is the more of that yellowish, or not yellowish, orangish glow. It's what we've been trying to push for a while, but they had approval from prior administration and they haven't been open to it. So I'm hoping that in a meeting with the secretary, I understand what procedure is. I understand it. It's all by the book, but common sense, changing out a light bulb is not going to hurt. Let us, even if we have to do it,
So
let
can
us.
you add it to the?
Yeah,
list of
it's
things?
one of the things.
That's
yeah.
all I'm asking is you add it to the list and discuss it. And I can't imagine there's not a way to retrofit some of these, hoods on the back of these things that at least would get one of the streetlights from shining into people's homes. So at any rate, whatever you can do, I'd be interested to hear what happens.
No problem.
Cool. Thank you.
Good. You finished? Okay. On the consent agenda, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
I'll second it. Oh, hold on.
Commissioner Hammelberg,
You can excuse yourself.
Ellenberg, you need to pull 9C.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, we need to pull 9C.
Your motion is to approve A and B, but we need to discuss item C.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Are you withdrawing 9C off the consent?
No, I'm not withdrawing. I'm abstaining from the vote.
Would it just be easier to abstain
want
from
it-
the consent?
Do I need,
No.
No.
Only as to the item that she needs to abstain. So the motion is to approve 9A and 9B.
correct.
I'll second that.
9C will be on discussion.
Yes.
Okay. Motion made by,
Yeah.
what?
We need to go through the motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Hammelberg and seconded by Vice Mayor Maria. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 9C. You want to speak on that, Commissioner Hammelberg?
Yeah, I need to abstain from that. Drishti is a cousin of mine and I don't want there to be an appearance. Number one, I don't not support her. I support her wholeheartedly. She's been doing this for years and years and years. But because she's a family member, I want to abstain from the vote.
Okay, can we do that separately then without her? Okay, I'd like a motion for 9C.
I'd like to make a motion for
Vice
9C.
Mayor Maria, and a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kennedy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And can the
I
record
abstained.
reflect
That's
that
what the one
Commissioner Hammer was saying?
Exception, okay. Ordinance 2022-13, amending Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances pertaining to election matters. Ed?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. This is an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending Section 2-33 titled Village Canvassing Board of Chapter 2 Administration of the Code of Ordinances of the Village of Biscayne Park to revise the composition and duties of the Village Canvassing Board, amending Article 5 Elections of Chapter 2 Administration, providing clarification on the special procedures for filling of vacant commission seats, and that the village clerk shall serve as the village supervisor of elections, repealing Section 2-62 with respect to early voting, providing for the manner in which to call for and advertise a village election, providing for a defined candidate qualifying period, providing for inclusion in the code and scrivener's errors, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. And this is second reading. And since the last reading, as you can see from the title, we clarified the special procedures for filing of vacant commission seats, but I understand there may be some discussion about that.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Is there any public comments on ordinance 2022-13? I don't see any hands raised on Zoom.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-13, amending chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinance pertaining to election matters.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Samaria and seconded by
I'll second that.
Commissioner Hammelberg. I need a roll call vote.
Discussion. This is for discussion.
Oh, discussion. Anybody want to express anything? We already did public comment.
This is for discussion with the commission.
Yeah, we'll let the other folks go first.
What?
You can let them go first.
Is there any discussion on this from the commissioners?
No?
No?
Okay, well then I'll go. So first, thanks Valerie for rewriting that. So it was really about the one section about how we fill vacant positions. It was a tangled up word salad that was just crazy to try to read and decipher. So we asked Valerie to take a crack at untangling that for us, and she did. And it's much easier to understand now. However, some of the things may have changed a little bit. So I talked to Valerie about this today, and I just want to make sure everyone's aware that some of it also changed from what was in there before. And a couple of things I asked Valerie was, is this a state requirement that we have these specific time periods? And she indicated no. Is that correct, Valerie? That we set these ourselves, that there's kind of some norms, but there are no state standards. So we get to kind of do whatever we think is best here. So there was a 90-day period in what we passed at first reading. Did you guys notice this? There was a 90-day period that we would allow a seat to be vacant. Did you guys notice that? No? Okay. In the existing language, there was a 90 days prior to an election, and Valerie, jump in here and correct me if I get this wrong. There was a 90-day period during which 90 days prior to an election, during which if there were a vacancy for any reason, one of us quit or died or whatever, that the seat would remain vacant until the election. That's now been removed. So now there is no vacancy language in there. So it's all about special elections now, and some of the time periods changed as well. So now it's maybe that didn't change. So here's my concern. The way it's written now, and I'm not saying I'm recommending that we change it. I just want to make sure you guys are clear and that we make sure we're all understand what it says and we're cool with it. That there is a possibility, the way that it's written now, that that we could require, because of the time period for a special election to fill a vacant seat and the amount of time that's allowed for the election to take place, there's the possibility that we would have a special election to fill a seat for as few as 15 or as many as 45 days. So it's really just kind of like one of these odd things. Now, is it likely to happen? I don't know. But whoever thought that two commissioners would quit at the same time? Ginny and I got elected, and then 2 months later, another one quit, and we had to have another special election that, thank God, didn't happen because only one person ran, and Ross, was basically elected to fill that seat. So things do happen. There was a time not too many years ago when Ginny and I were a part of that. 3 people were elected to this commission in a 4-month period of time. So there's a possibility that we would have a special election and an election to put someone in office for an extremely short period of time. A special election costs $15,000 more or less. That's never really budgeted for. What's in the budget this year for election, like $6,000 or something? But that's because it's part of the general election, so it's cheaper. I think it's $6,000, Mario, something like that. So I just want to make you guys aware. Again, I'm not saying we need to change what's in here, but be aware that it changed from the first reading that we approved to what we're about to vote on. And I want to make sure you're all aware of what you're voting on. So that's in there. And then I asked Valerie if there are any laws when it comes to appointing someone, for the shorter time period that there's a vacancy, then the commission appoints someone. And what is that time period, Valerie? It's less than
6 months.
less than 6 months. So if there's less than 6 months left on the term, then the commission appoints someone.
And
and-
likewise, even if there's more than 6 months, the commission would appoint during the pendency until the special election is called.
Yeah.
So in both scenarios, there will be.
Or there's an
appointments,
appointment.
So there's not a
Right.
vacancy.
Right, so there's a vacancy and we make an appointment. We appoint someone to it while we wait for a special election to take place. And then that temporary person would step out and the new person comes in. And then for the shorter period of time, they just finish the term until the regular election.
Okay.
Now, I asked if there were laws about appointing candidates. I was just curious. And, I could drop dead here in the next week and you could appoint one of the candidates. So, and she said there are not. Just want to make sure you guys are clear on that. And make sure you're also clear that if we have an election and for a certain number of positions, like 3 is normal, and there's a vacancy for some reason during the election period, that would require another special election. So right now, let's say, for example, I quit tomorrow, and there's an election a week from today, and we're electing 3 people. We don't just put number 4 into position. There has to be another election for that. Yeah. So there's like a lot of election possibilities here, and they all cost us money. So again, is it all likely to happen? No. But could it happen? Absolutely. And something weird went down here I'm one of the, I'm just opening myself for a nasty comment here. I'm one of the products of something weird going on. So I want to make you all aware of that. I don't know if you noticed it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, some of them look like they're not aware. So any comment to say on that?
Is there any other comments on that before roll call? Shante, you want to do a roll call on that, please? 2022-13.
Is everyone aware of and okay with those time periods and the fact that we'd be calling multiple special elections that?
Yes, we
Okay.
were there. Okay, go ahead. Shante.
Mayor O'Happen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Samaria,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Hammelberg, Commissioner Kennedy,
Oops, yes.
Mayor, ordinance number 2022-13, amending chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances pertaining to election matters passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, resolution 2022-44, accepting the Public Transit Service Development Program grant funds. Can you read that, Ed? Please?
Yes, ma'am. A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving the Florida Department of Transportation, Public Transportation Grant Agreement, accepting the Public Transit Service Development Program grant funds in the amount of $50,000, authorizing the village manager to take all necessary steps to implement the terms and conditions of the Public Transportation Grant Agreement, including expending the budgeted matching funds in the amount of $70,000, authorizing the village manager to execute said agreement, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-44, accepting the public transit service development program funds.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Second, Commissioner. Okay, discussion? Manager would like to discuss.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to a couple things to bring to the commissioner's attention. When we first applied for the FDOT grant, the various estimates that we were getting for the freebie services, and this was still being worked out at the county level, was that it looked like we would be looking at 100,000 for yearly service. However, after the county ordinance went in, which also required ADA vehicles and things like that, the total amount for the contract for freebie, sorry, for us is 120. We do have an ADA accessible vehicle at Public Works, so if somebody needs it, they have that vehicle available, which is why you see a $70,000 matching. That 70,000 is from CITT funds. It's not from the general funds. Next year, as I announced earlier, we are getting a $60,000 grant from the same grant that we're hopefully approving now, which would be a 50% match for CITT funds. In future years, if we don't get the grant, essentially the freebie cost, more of the fiscal responsibility falls on CITT. Minimum is 20%, but some cities use 100% of CITT funds on transit services. So I just wanted to make sure I explained that, because I know sometimes 50%, but 50,000 and 70 aren't really equal. That's why there's a difference.
Thank you. Any other discussion on that?
Yeah. So first, Mario, thanks for clarifying that, because the math didn't add up quite right. I kind of figured what was going on there. And you already told us that next year's grant is going to be 60. So that's great news. And it'll be definitely be a 50-50 split next year. Do we know that freebie will still be the same price next year? 120? That's confirmed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay. So after the 70,000 is used from the CITT fund, how are we doing in there in the transit category? And does that, and if it's not all used up, what happens to that money? Does it stay where it is? Does it have to be used on something?
It gets
Make
rolled
sure that all
over.
so it
Yeah,
rolls over.
it gets rolled over to the next fiscal year. You can, CITT allows you to carry over for 5 years, which is where we had a big problem. But with the way that we've structured everything with CITT, freebie, and now this grant, they see how we're expending that money. So they approved the way that we're using the carryover. And why they haven't clawed back I think it was like $500,000 that they initially wanted to do. So we have allocated all the way through fiscal year 27 for transit services. With freebie, obviously before that time, we would have to renegotiate with them or get a new contract or a new transit service, whatever it could be. But we're planned out how to use all those CITT funds through that 5-year cycle, which is required.
Solid all the way through the freebie contract.
We've identified those funds and we can allocate. Obviously, the more grants that we get, it makes less of a burden on CITT, which then allows us to use more of that money on other areas instead of, so that we can use an 80-20 split instead of saying it's going to be 80% transit, 20% infrastructure.
Okay, that's all good news. And then real quickly, just as it's kind of attached part of this item, is it possible to add destinations on the freebie list? And I'm thinking specifically the North Miami Library and one of the local post offices, either Miami Shores or the one up in North Miami. I think those would be two things. I wish they were on there now so people had a way to get to the North Miami Library for early voting. Don't think it could probably happen. Early voting ends on Sunday, but is it possible to add destinations on there?
Kind of. Yes, with freebie, we can add any destination that we want. The trick comes into, is the destination allowed within the county ordinance for type of locations that are essential services, which is what the county ordinance requires for anything outside of the municipal city limits for it to be. I do believe that the voting would fall in there. And so I've contacted freebie to be able to add that at least through the end of the week.
Okay.
So I hope to have that
Awesome.
active tomorrow, I think.
And could you check in about the post office?
I can definitely look into that.
Yeah, I would like to think they're both essential services, and it'd be great to add them on there. And if they are added on, if the library, I'm sorry, if the early voting location at the library is added on this week, we need to make sure community is aware about that. So if you let me know, I'll be happy to stick it on next door if you don't have time to do it. Thanks. Okay.
Okay, is there any other discussion on that? Okay, I'd like, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that's passed. 11B, Resolution 2022-45, assignment of franchise agreement, et cetera. Ed?
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving and consenting to the assignment of the existing non-exclusive franchise agreement with Peoples Gas System, a division of Tampa Electric Company, to Peoples Gas System, Inc., an indirect wholly owned subsidiary of Tico Energy, Inc., attached hereto is Exhibit A, authorizing the village manager to execute said consent, providing for authorization and implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Can I have a motion on that, please?
I'd like,
Ms. Maria?
yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-45, assignment of franchise agreement, and request consent in connection with the reorganization.
Okay, a second on that? Commissioner Gonzalez? Okay, any discussion? Commissioner Kennedy?
Please.
No, no discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed. Resolution 2022-46, grant writing and management. Ed?
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, waiving the village's competitive bidding procedures pursuant to Section 2-139 of the Village's Code of Ordinances, approving an agreement with EcoStrata Services, Inc. for researching, writing, and submitting grant applications on behalf of the Village of Biscayne Park in an amount not to exceed $30,000 attached hereto as Exhibit A, authorizing the village manager to execute said agreement, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Okay, can I have a motion on that, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve it, make a motion to approve,
Maria?
approve Resolution 2022-46, grant writing and management.
And a second?
A second.
Okay, Commissioner Hammelberg. Okay, I'll open up for discussion, and our manager would like to speak first on that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Commission, during the budget season, you all wanted to increase the opportunity for grant writing services from 10,000 to 30,000. One of the things that I looked at before bringing this to you all for consideration is, what do we get for that? Last year, when we were looking for grant writing services, essentially I tried to narrow it down because worried with matching funds and what we can actually afford. In your backup, you will see that you'll see multiple proposals there for last year. And you'll see that for four applications, other companies were charging close to $30,000. And so when we have already a grant writer who was working with us for just under 10,000 for the year, someone who's gotten to know the village, where we are, the obstacles that we have in a lot of these applications. To give you an idea, we were working towards applying for a grant, but we don't have the deeds to the park or some of these areas. And so now we'll have to go through an additional process with our attorneys to be able to get an opinion of title so that we can add that as part of the application. So tonight, thankfully, Robert is with us. With his guidance, we spent 10,000, and I think we've got 10 or 12 times the amount of grants. in 1 year. The proposal is to increase the applications submissions from 4 to 6, but also adding hours for grant management. With a lot of the grants, there is times where there's certain reports that have to be turned in, making sure that we're staying on top of that. So the proposal is adding those hours to be able to do that, which does alleviate on my end, because it's either me or Shantae doing this for the grants. So with that, looking at what the proposals we had last year for the amount of money, I think we're getting still an amazing deal for grant writing services. Unfortunately, Biscayne Park doesn't have a lot of buying power. And when we go out for RFPs or RFQs, not many people want to submit. And we've seen that with several last RFPs that have gone out. So going through and looking for either piggybacking or being able to find a service that has worked. This last year, like I said, it was under the $10,000. So with the 3 quotes, I was able to exercise. I think Robert is an amazing grant writer. He's done really well for us. He continues to do well for us. And so my recommendation is to waive competitive bidding and accept his package for the $30,000 for this upcoming fiscal year. Robert, do you want to say a few words? I think I unmuted you.
Yes, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Commission. Thank you for the time and thank you for having this item on the agenda. As Mario said, yes, been working with you for a year. Very happy to work with you all. I think we've been very successful. So you know a little bit about me. I've been in business. My company's been in business for almost 14 years. I came from, before I had my business, I was the director of grants administration for the city of Miami for almost 7 years, where I was in charge with a team of all the grants for the city of Miami, from police to parks to capital improvements to trees, everything of that nature. And for the last 14 years, we serve cities and nonprofits. We help them get grants or other government dollars, partnerships. We've been very successful. We work mainly in Miami-Dade County. I have right now probably seven or 8 city clients. Some, for example, I'll tell you, like the Village of El Portal, I've been working with since I started, since 2010. It's now 2022. We work with our clients and we kind of learn. We learn what they need and we learn how they work, because we see ourselves as salespeople. We're trying to sell your village. In order to sell your village, we need to know you. You need to know us. So as we continue to grow and continue to work together, we have more information. We work better together. And I think our clients really like it. Our municipal clients really like it. And that's why they keep us year after year, because we provide a service and that you don't have to supervise. You don't have to pay taxes for. You don't have to pay benefits for. I hope that we can continue and continue to grow this. And as Mario said, this year it would not just be applying for grants, but also helping you with the compliance, which we also do in terms of the grant commencement paperwork, the reporting, making sure you're up to date with the reporting, and then the grant closeout. Because obviously you can get a grant and you can get awarded, but you always have to manage it and you have to get the money in order to be successful. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Did you get Omar Nickerson and El Portel all that money?
I got some of it. I'll tell you, I can't take credit for all of it because they have a really good, they have Craig and Associates, who also works with us, and we kind of work as a team. And actually it's appropriate because we always work, we know the processes, we know the grants, but we always work with subject matter experts too. And so we got some of it. But yeah, we love Omar and we worked with them for a long time. Great people.
Yeah, he rubs it in about getting all the money, and us poor little villages don't get it. What can I tell you? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, Anybody else want to go?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, so fundamentally what this is Mario's asking us to waive the competitive bidding process, and I just want to make sure that people are listening in understand what that means. So there are requirements that we put things out to bid, but Mario can come to us and say, I think because of the nature of this and the fact that they've worked with us before or whatever he thinks is appropriate, he can ask us to waive that bidding process. Now, in this situation, I think it's fine, and I'm going to vote to support this, but I just always like to make sure people who are watching now or watch it later understand what this is really about. And it's about waiving that process. And that process is in place to protect the village from something bad going on, like something nefarious or some shoddy work. So that's really what it's there for. So it's kind of a big deal when the manager asks a commission to waive that process because it's there for very good reason. In this case, he has explained to me and in the backup that in this case it makes sense, and I agree with him, but I just want people to understand that that's what it's really about, and that I would never take that that consideration lightly. It's a big deal to allow Mario to waive the bidding process. So in this case, I'm totally good with it. Here is something I have an issue with, and Robert, this has nothing to do with you, so if you want to close your ears, I know you're going to listen in, but I was letting you know this has nothing to do with you or your work. Mario speaks very highly of you, and you got some great stuff done for us last year, and we certainly appreciate that. Now, this year when we did the budget, guys, if you'll recall, there was $20,000 in the budget, and we discussed increasing it to 30, and we were very excited because we wanted to get more grants done to try to get more money into the village. At the time, the conversation was not, let's increase it from 20 to 30 so we can pay someone to do some of the administering of these grants. It was, let's get some more money. I just want to remind you that that's what we were excited about. That's what we voted for. It was not give Mario $10,000 extra in the budget to administer these things. It was give him $10,000 extra so we have more opportunity to go find more things. That's what we approved the increase for in the budget when we discussed it. You want to?
Yeah, just to clarify, we are increasing the amount of applications in this proposal as well. So we're meeting both goals, I think.
But there is a certain amount of that is going to be used on the administration. So some of the things that I see in the letter that was provided to us as backup, I'm not sure that we necessarily need them done. I'm not an expert on these things, but it says things like, in this capacity, we would assist with contract execution. Well, we have attorneys for that, and commencement. I'm not sure what that means. Reporting, I guess that's what Mario and his staff do now. Reimbursements and contract closeout. So we have attorneys on staff that do some of these things for us. They handle contracts for us, don't they?
No, yes, they do. But with regards to the grants, there's an entire different process that goes into that. Our legal, they don't go into the back and forth in the negotiation with the grantor. They just do a final review of what the contract is with the village prior to going on to the agenda to make sure that we're protected as well. So that initial, right, they vet it. So that initial back and forth would Robert and his team would be assisting us in that process as well.
I just want to be really clear that my desire to increase that from 20,000 to 30,000 was to help us get more money. And I really want to know, and I hope that really happens because that was our intent, not to pay someone to Robert, don't take this the wrong way, push papers around, but you know what I mean, right? So it's the administration of it rather than they get the money for us. So we need money, Robert. We're this big and our budget's that little, and we need you to go get some money for us. So I just want to make sure that that's what's going to happen here with this extra money. And because it was like a red flag, ding, ding, ding. It's like all of a sudden we're also going to we're giving him more money and we're also going to do these things. And that's not what my intent was when I asked for that extra money.
Commissioner, may I say something? All right.
So
obviously I was not privy to those conversations. I don't know anything.
Right. It was a
about those
budget conversation.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know anything about that, but I will tell you that with a city of your size, to go after what we're going after is a good amount because there's considerable work. There's a considerable pulling from subject matter experts. So I think the number of grants is good. And I'll tell you from the other perspective, because I've been dealing with it now, when you said that the attorneys go after grants. I've been dealing with the state grant. We've been at it for 3 months for a client because we have to change the scope. Oftentimes you'll ask for a grant and what they give you might be less, or things change and you want to go back to the funder and make negotiations and change. The attorneys don't do that. The attorneys come in and look at the document at the end of the day and say, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's not. We can't agree to this. There's a lot that goes on with making sure not only the city, the village looks and you got an award that grant, but that the grant actually gets in. Because remember, a lot of these grants are also reimbursement grants. So you're spending the money and the money's just out there. You've spent it, and now and then they come in and you're going to get reimbursed for it. You have to make sure that you know people that know from the very beginning you're doing everything the right way, you're doing the reporting the right way, so that you get that money in the end. And the little bit of money that you spend at the beginning can reap a lot of dollars. I think it's all connected. And I'll tell you from the very beginning, and like I said, I started 14 years ago. Some cities only wanted to go out, and small cities wanted to go out for grants. But when they realized, okay, if we start getting you a bunch of grants, what are you going to do? Are you going to hire a new position to manage them? Or are you going to let them fall through the cracks, or not get reimbursed the money? So this is a good scenario that has worked many times to just kind of take that off your hands and make sure that you not only get awarded, but the money gets into your bank account.
Okay, fully appreciate all of that. And again, thanks for what you did. I just want to make sure we're paying more, and I want to make sure we're getting more at the end of the day. That's all. Cool?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but I'm supporting this item. I just wanted to be able to say that out loud and make sure that,
We absolutely hear you and we hear the commission. Absolutely.
And all valid points, Commissioner.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passed. Resolution 2022-47.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Florida PACE Program. Ed?
A resolution of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, permitting property assessed clean energy PACE programs within the corporate limits of the Village of Biscayne Park for residential properties, approving agreements with the Florida Green Finance Authority, the Florida Resiliency and Energy District, and the Florida PACE Funding Agency in substantially the form attached hereto, utilizing voluntary non-ad valorem assessments to finance qualifying improvements, authorizing the village manager to execute said agreements, and providing for implementing administrative actions, scrivener's errors, conflicts, severabilities, and effective date.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for that, please?
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-47 Florida PACE Program.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Samario and seconded by
I'll second it.
Commissioner Hammelberg. Okay, discussion. Mario, you want to start?
Madam Mayor, very, very quickly, we had a couple residents mid-October calling in a panic because Y Green, which was another provider in the PACE program, decided to pull out of Florida for whatever reason, and I don't know the full story. And so when we started looking within our records, they were the only provider that would work within Biscayne Park. So I was able to reach out to a representative who was then able to kind of help the village. And I think I saw her name in the Zoom earlier, Wendy. She was able to help get us in contact with the other two providers, and we have a representative, Jennifer, and I'm sorry, I forgot which one you told me you were with Florida Green Financing. So this would allow essentially any of those providers to work within the village. I believe the interlocal agreements are substantially complete. Madam Attorney, if I'm correct, I think there was some minor points that we were trying to work out, but overall substantially complete. There's no financial obligation on the village, and this is just an opportunity for residents to make improvements on their homes and essentially put it on for the X amount of years afterwards on their tax bill so that they can energy efficient upgrades, new roofs, windows, doors, things like that.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on that?
Can we hear from, do we need to hear from her?
Mario, is it, we're kind of approving this globally, and you're going to pick one of these companies, or
No.
you're going to allow residents to select from those three?
Residents can select from any of the companies that they wish to work with. We're just allowing, I put out the call, any and all of the programs,
You're allowing them to
opportunities.
operate. We're allowing them to
Correct.
operate the village.
because before it was only one company, and that doesn't make sense to me.
So I got a flyer on my front door last week. That must have been from one of those companies. It just said Pace on, I didn't read it. I mean, I saw what it was, I threw it out. So that was one of those companies is soliciting in the village for people to use their service.
I would presume. Jennifer, did you want to say anything? If you can just go into the mic and introduce yourself. I know we're putting you on the spot there, so.
No.
If you can just make sure you, here, let me.
Nope.
Mic check 1, 2.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Rojo Suarez. I am with Renew Financial, one of the PACE providers under the Florida Green Finance Authority. And we really appreciate you all supporting this resolution. Again, we are just one of 2 other districts that would be operating here in the village. We basically, I'm not sure, Commissioner Kennedy, if the flyer that you are speaking about is one of our contractors or one of the contractors that offers PACE financing. However, we do have in our, provisions, anything that has to do with the marketing. So if you do get any marketing that that's in question, you can absolutely let us know about that, and we will investigate any of those types of marketing. But again, I'll leave my card with you all if you ever, if you have any questions regarding the financing, or if your constituents call in with questions, you could always direct them to me as well. I am, like I said, just one of the PACE providers, but we all do work closely together to offer this vital financing to constituents here in Florida.
May I ask a question? And I don't know if it's to Mario and or Jennifer. I got that flyer, and it's like someone taped, it was like literally Scotch tape and a flyer printed, stuck on my door, and just kind of didn't look real professional. I was like, what's that? I thought I got a code violation is what it was. But is it appropriate for those things to have something on them like the village seal and this company is one of the approved vendors approved by the village? No. Okay.
That is against our policy.
Okay.
So that's why I'll give you my card. And if you could actually send me a picture of that, we will do our own, investigation to see if it is one of our contractors or it might be something else.
I had the word PACE on it. I mean, are people allowed to go stick flyers on doors like that?
We have a solicitation. We have a solicitation code where they'd have to come to Village Hall first, but they obviously did not.
Okay.
So it could just be a random contractor who gets who works with any one of these 3 companies or districts, better said, and this starts getting around. So obviously those vendors start wanting to be able to solicit those works, but no, it's not something that the village would put out like that.
I'll hopefully have it in the trash can. I'll send it to Mario and he can send it. If you want to give me your card, I'll send it to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passed. Okay, we're up to 13, new business, rebuilding after a natural disaster. Mario?
I believe Commissioner Hammelberg wanted to introduce the item.
My concern is if Hurricane Ian, which devastated Fort Myers, had hit Biscayne Park, we have houses on quote non-conforming lots. And some of these people have paid $700,000 for their home. What can we do to ensure that they would be able to make whole their property? I don't want it to be that anybody can demolish and rebuild. I want it to be only if there is fire, if there is a natural disaster, if there is some type of disaster that we can allow the homeowner to make whole. I don't know how many of you know, but in 2005, Hurricane Wilma destroyed my house. And I rebuilt it back to the total specs. Luckily, I had no issues with doing that because I'm on a conforming lot. I've got 75 frontage, but there are houses that are 65 frontage. And I wondered what we need to do to ensure that these people are not left with the $700,000 piece of land and nothing that they can do with it. I think it opens the door for tremendous amount of liability for the village. I also think if 10% of our lots are non-conforming and we lose 10% of our financials because they become vacant lots instead of houses, it hurts the village, but it also hurts the village with liability. So I would like to see us consider something that would allow people to make whole, whether it's they could rebuild to the same footprint, or because a lot of these lots didn't meet setback. They were built in the 30s, they were built in the 40s, and they didn't meet setback. And I actually didn't meet setback on one of my sides, and they just let it go because it was the same footprint as the original structure. But when you're in the middle of a devastation like that, and you're dealing with your mortgage company, your insurance company, contractors, it's just way too overwhelming to have the city be throwing one more thing at people.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
Commissioner, I completely sympathize and agree with your statements. During an emergency and that rebuilding effort, like my initial thought is from the very beginning, even before we are hit with a storm, how do we start rebuilding? And so my one concern with your statement is let them rebuild whatever footprint they had. I don't know that the city can essentially do that because a lot of the non-conforming lots are older homes, and my experience is that the record keeping is not as good. So there's no way for me to be able to say you only had a 1,000 square foot home. That's what you're allowed to build, right? So they can go, okay, I'm a non-conforming. I want to build a 3,000 square foot home. And if everything is waived, then I think we come in, I think as part of the land development code, if there's a way to address your concerns, where for me, and obviously this would be something that would be discussed. For me, we have non-conforming lots that were that way since they were plotted. And so I think it might be simple enough within a code to be able to say for any originally plotted land that is non-conforming, they can build on the property, because I think that's the biggest concern is not being able to build. They're able to build on the property, but they need to meet certain, they need to meet the code, right? So if they got to be 30 foot, if it means that they're not allowed to build a 3,000 square foot home, okay, but you can still build on it. If it means that at the end of the day, what's allowed to be built is a 4-4 and they had a 2-1, they can expand or something like that. I think there's ways that we can address that without it being so constrictive that it's exactly what was there before, because I don't know that even during that time, the village itself is also going through a lot of trying to recovery efforts as well. So I don't know how procedurally we would be able to say this is what you had before, outside of going to the county property appraiser. And I don't know, we may not be able to see that.
There's also going to be a foundation to the structure. Usually the foundation is intact, so you can see the footprint from the foundation. But again, this is what I wanted up for discussion. This is what I wanted to discuss with Valerie. And I do not want to open the door for our properties to be torn down and rebuilt, or for lots to be subdivided. It
Yeah.
should not apply
Emergency
there.
only.
It should apply if there's a fire, if there's any type of a devastation from a hurricane or some other event that we don't have control over, not just somebody wanting to make money. And again, I'm not quite sure how to go about it, but I would rather we address this issue rather than waiting, because somebody said, well, we have variances that we could always do. But if we've got 30 residences that have this type of damage, it's going to be pretty onerous for us to do variances for all 30 of them. I mean, even if it means that we have some sort of stipulation or land use, that it comes up for a commission vote or something that doesn't have to go through all the jumping through the hoops of a variance. I just want it to be addressed. I want it to be looked at by us. And I think it's important that it gets dealt with preemptively, not after the fact. Global warming is not going away, and resiliency is one of my big things. And I think we need to just take care of it.
You know, Judy, I see a problem on that, and I do agree with you that something should be done, but so many homes here have never been kept up with the county, and that's Biscayne Park's fault. I mean, they never, you know, when they inspect the house, they never changed it with the county on how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, and there are so many houses here that were never updated. And even though it was so, my house was never updated, don't ask me why. They had the inspector, but it didn't happen. I remember with Harvey Built when he was selling his house. It'd been 100 years, not quite, but, and it wasn't updated, and all of a sudden he had to get it updated. That's the problem.
But we do,
Miami-Dade is doing it now with with us, where when there's, you know, things going on that they have to notify Miami-Dade, but Miami-Dade wasn't notified for an awful lot of homes here
correct.
on stuff. You know,
But there's at least, there's a concrete footprint we can go by. There's whether Miami-Dade was updated. I mean, Miami-Dade was an era on a friend of mine's home that they had it listed as a 2-1 and it was built as a 2-2. It wasn't updated.
no, it's got, I mean,
So
it's
yeah.
there.
But the
Biscayne Park was very lax.
foundation and the structure and the dimensions, the
Yeah,
basic
but you can-
dimensions.
Right, they still, I don't think Google's going away.
Right.
It'll still be hanging out
But
there.
again, I think we need to take care of it
I agree with you.
before we end up with a mess.
Yeah. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I agree. I like to hear, I like to hear what the attorneys and the design development board thinks about this. So I think it's something that we should have a discussion on. It's very important. But it's just something I think we need to really have a discussion. I like to hear from the rest of the other commissioners on what they think about it.
Mhm. Any other discussion?
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's something I had not considered. So this is an interesting thing for us to discuss. And hopefully, Judy, if we were to do something, it would be the reason why we never get hit by an Ian, right? Because we were prepared. So hopefully, you just kind of would help push that away from happening to us. So
You bought your house around the same time I did. Is yours right? Have you
yeah,
ever looked?
yeah, mine is.
Mine's wrong.
Mine had never been touched, so mine was, yeah.
Yeah. mine-
Okay, so I talked to Valerie about it and I learned some stuff today. If something happened to a home now, devastating fire, the resident, you welcome back today, a tornado, a hurricane, something, the house would have to be built back per Florida building code, and they'd have to meet our current zoning and all the building codes. now, people always do have an option to get a variance. So there is that. So that's like the first thing that comes in my head as well. They could ask for a variance, and we have given exceptions. I don't know if that's singular or plural, what we've approved at this point for undersized lots or oddly shaped lots or lots that didn't have the right frontage, or maybe a combination of those things. I wouldn't be interested in letting people rebuild to not meeting setbacks. That to me is kind of like a bridge too far. But people do have the option for a variance. I hear what you're saying, that we could be inundated with variance requests. Now, of course, we also have the option of doing this then. Like, oh my God, we just got devastated and 40 homes are destroyed and we need to address this. And we could do something then that could be done like bam, bam, like 2 months. No one's gonna, look, it takes them weeks and months to just clean up, let alone decide what they're gonna rebuild. And, if it's that devastating, it takes a while. They're not rebuilding in 3 weeks. So we always would have the option to act then. Say, okay, if there's something catastrophic that happened here, how can we figure our way through this? Basically, the conversation you're having, Judy, and address it when it's needed and make it happen quickly if we needed to. One of the other things you have to be concerned about is if you don't allow someone to, I'm not going to use the right words, Valerie, so feel free to jump in here anytime. If you don't allow someone to somehow regain the value of their property, then they could sue us, right? Yeah. And it's called the Harris Act is what they would sue us under, I suppose is the right wording. But they can sue for the loss of the value of their property, but that doesn't stop us from legislating or enforcing it. It just allows them to sue us after the fact. And here's the interesting, so if anyone's thinking we could find ourselves in legal trouble here, here's an interesting little thing I learned, that just a little tidbit. I learned something every time I talk to Valerie. So today it was, if someone sued us under I really do, if someone sued us under the Harris Act and they won, it's part of the law. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It's part. Then you go ahead and say it.
So one of the things that Commissioner Kennedy had inquired about was what the village can do if presented with a Burt Harris claim. And so one of the things that we discussed was the statute provides as part of a settlement. So this is before it's gone to trial and there's a judgment, but as part of the settlement, the local government has the ability to exempt the property or the claimant from the zoning regulations that they are doing for.
So in other words, as part of the process of going through this before it gets to trial, we settle with them, and it's our option to say, okay, go ahead and build what you want. Basically, we could allow them to do it. If push came to shove and they were going to sue us and we thought we're really going to lose this and we're going to be on the hook for something here, we could. It's our choice at that point. Would it be the commission's choice or the commission's choice to say, okay, go ahead and let them build it? So we would kind of have an out. My brain goes to, how could this go wrong? How could people use this somehow for nefarious intent? People burning down buildings that they want to get rid of and stuff like that. So I'm not for or against it, but my mind kind of went I looked at it from all angles and I'm trying to learn here. So I understand what you're trying to do.
My
I'm not.
rebuild was an 11-month ordeal. And it was 11-month ordeal fighting every step of the way. How much more do we want to make it on our residents?
Well, I dare say some of these, we can't, it's hard to sit here and make a decision, not sort of like just a blanket decision on things. There are structures in this building that we may not want to allow to be rebuilt the way they were, I don't know. So,
but I'm not saying throw all our building codes out.
Right.
We still have building codes. But I think we need to preemptively take care of something and not wait until we have a disaster on our hands. Because this village, if it takes us 6 months to get an ordinance passed, you're now making your residents wait 6 to 8 more months after a disaster to even get started when they're out of a home.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure it would take us 6 to 8 months.
So let me ask
I
you-
hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
Let me ask you a question. I'm sure that we're not the only community that has had this.
No, Miami Shores is doing it as well.
So that's my question. Is there any way, Mario, that you can inquire with some other managers and see what they've done in regards to this issue? And maybe we can, learn something and piggyback on what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We can take a look at that. I would just, again, ask for clarification of what we're looking for, right? Because one thing is to allow for construction on non-conforming lots. Then the other is waiving certain aspects, not only for building on non-conforming lots, but then the type of building, right? So now we're getting into which codes would be applicable and which is not, which is why my initial comments were, you can build under these circumstances on a non-conforming lot, but you need to meet the village code, right? And I understand there'll be a footprint, but that also provides the opportunity for someone who's like, I'm going to rebuild. You know what? I want to just do the extension that I've always thought about, or I want to build smaller. It can go either way. So during a time of an emergency, especially if it's a village-wide emergency, to then be saying, okay, non-conforming properties can have these code waived, but the other ones can't, right? So it kind of comes down to what is it that we want to look to? If it's just the building on the non-conforming lot so that they don't have to do a variance, I think that's a simple phrase, which is just wording within that land development code. If it is much more extensive than that, then I would need a little bit more direction as to what is it that we're looking for specifically so that I can guide that process correctly as the commission wishes.
That makes sense. Now, does that open us up to any kind of liability if we have code that basically says, in case of some catastrophic thing, we're waiving our let's just say it was limited to non-conforming lots, and we're going to waive that. Does that open us up to anything for someone saying, well, look, it's in your code that you allowed if there's a catastrophe, so why don't you allow me to do it to my home? You're allowing them to do it. You're allowing other people to do it. If there's some emergency thing, why wouldn't you just let me do it if I just want to tear my house down and do it anyway? Because you're going to end up with the same result, a house on a non-conforming lot. Does that open us up to any kind of? Yeah,
I don't know offhand. It's something that
Yeah.
we have to look at.
yeah.
I
So,
can say that there's jurisdictions handle this differently. I tried looking at it today, in advance of the meeting. Coral Gables allows you to build what you had before in residential districts. You just can't expand on the nonconformities. But there's plenty of other jurisdictions that, irrespective of the cause, you have to bring it up to the current land development regulations. So each jurisdiction handles it differently. It's a policy decision for the commission to make.
do those jurisdictions that the second example where you have to build, if you have to follow the code, do they expressly say that in their code, or by not saying it, you're thinking that?
It's expressly
It's
stated.
expressly stated. So okay, that's interesting. So some communities expressly state your house blows away in a tornado, you gotta meet everything and I guess apply for variances. Judy, I think you said very quickly, did you say Miami Shores is looking at this right now?
I know the Shores is looking at it right now because they actually have an extensive number of properties. And if they all became vacant lots, they would really be in trouble.
So do you know what they're looking at exactly?
They're looking at allowing them to be made whole. The details I don't know.
With the
So
same
Commissioner,
footprint.
can I ask, is the concern building on non-conforming, or is it extending to even meeting certain setbacks of 10 feet from the side and back property and the 30 feet from the front?
I think they're at the same stage we're at.
No, I'm asking, is your concern just the
my-
building of it, or even the setbacks from the front and the side and the back?
Well, I don't know how non-conforming some of our lots are. I don't know if they could meet the setbacks and still put a reasonable house on there.
Well,
I just don't know.
But if you could get a reasonably sized house on any lot, because they can do 2 stories. Yeah, kind of without knowing where they are, I just got a text from Dan Keys, said we should have a list of non-conforming lots so we know what we're looking at here. I don't know how we would gather that. But again, my gut reaction would be waiving the non-conforming lot is one thing, but waiving any of the other building code is another thing, specifically setbacks, because setbacks are how you keep a home from impacting the homes around it.
Yeah, but these are existing
I
homes.
understand that. I understand
So-
that.
And I
But
did
it- but it's
discuss
the-
this with Gage in detail, and he said, I think he said 119th Street or 117th Street has a tremendous number of non-conforming lots. So he was aware of certain areas that have more non-conforming.
So why don't we do this, if it's okay with you, Commissioner Hammelberg, and the rest of the commission? Why don't we do a little bit of research and then send it over to planning to get their initial recommendation?
Yeah, that's what I'm
as
asking.
to what would be the best way to kind of move it forward, and whether it's just one aspect or both. And both is non-conforming and setback issue, or if it's just a non-conforming, and then we can start that dialogue once we kind of see a little bit more of a recommendation from the planning board.
And Commissioner Kennedy, the thought to make it into a two-story home, you're now taking somebody who's gone through a tremendous disaster, who's doing a tremendous battle to try and get their money out of their insurance company, and you're getting them to almost double the cost of their building by making it two-story. So I'm not sure that that's a feasible solution when
Don't know that
when
it's
you're
feasible.
up to
I
your
don't know that
ears in alligators and they're swimming all around you. You just want to keep what you have.
I went through this. I was flooded out once as a child. I went through the drama. It's horrible. And something just ran through my mind and swam out my other ear. And it was kind of something interesting, and I forget what it was. So, I know what it was. If you're going to ask planning board to look at non-conforming lots and setbacks as a separate thing, I would also ask them to look at any other consideration that they think we might want to, like the frontage, because that's another thing, is lot frontage.
Well, that would fall under, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would fall
Oh, I
under
guess that
non-conforming.
non-conforming lot would
Yeah.
include frontage and size.
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
And again, this is restricted, my understanding, this is restricted to emergency
Emergency.
response.
And you know, these are homes that were built, most of them in the 30s and 40s, that have structures on them, but zoning.
Probably means they'll
changed in the
survive.
70s.
They're the ones that'll make it.
Well, mine was built in 47 and it took a hit with that little tornado.
Mine was 39.
Yeah.
So you're gonna do some research, talk to the planning board and come back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good call,
Any
Judy.
Thank you,
other
Commissioner.
discussion on that?
No.
No, good
We'll
call,
look
Judy.
into
for
that, huh,
us to
Judy?
discuss that.
It's a good idea. We really need that. Okay, 13B, the FAA letter. Mario.
I'll give that to Commissioner Kennedy.
Okay.
That's his item.
So that's mine. So the FAA item, as far as we're concerned, is a closed case. If anyone wants to read my cover memo, I just kind of did my homework and laid out the whole case there if you want to read it. But basically, we're concerned about the flight patterns that were changed from MIA, that we're redirecting planes over our heads very low, and all the concerns that come along with it. We fought it. We joined some other cities to fight it, and we lost in court. Ed has reported back to all of us now that 2 of the municipalities, Ed, there were 7 initially? I think it was 7. At any rate, so it was a number of municipalities banded together. We all threw money in the kitty to pay for this. And 2 of the municipalities are moving forward with an appeal of some sort. They're asking for a motion of reconsideration, or it's called something like that, Ed. So it's an appeal of some kind to ask the judge to look at it again. We're not, the village is not moving forward because of budgetary constraints. But 2 of our neighbors have much deeper pockets than we do, and that's North Miami and, oh my God, drawing a blank, Mario, Bay Harbor Islands. So they're going to move forward with filing this motion to reconsider in court, and we're not part of it. But if they were to prevail in this case, we would still benefit because the planes would be moved back to their original flight patterns or some other flight patterns that don't impact us. So I'm not asking us to do anything other than to send a letter of solidarity to the managers and the mayor, vice mayor, commissioners, council people of those 2 cities to say, thank you. And we know that we'll benefit from your work and the money you're spending, and just tell them we stand behind you.
Don't you think that we're rubbing it in? We ought to just shut up and just take what we can.
No, I
and if
think we
they
should say,
win,
no, I
they'll
think we should
gain,
say
but
thank
it's
you.
kind of rubbing it in. They're going to say, look at those cheap people over there.
I don't think it's
I-
rubbing it in. I think
No,
it's, I think it's
I
saying
don't
thank
agree
you.
with
Okay.
sending a
So
letter.
so I drafted a letter, and I'm not going to read it, but you all hopefully read it. I want to, and by the way, this idea originally came from former Commissioner Barbara Watts. And when she said it, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. When someone does something nice for you, you say thank you, first of all. And to let them know that we stand behind them. They're fighting the good fight that unfortunately we can't fight anymore alongside them. So we're thanking them for doing that and showing our support and banding with them.
I would like,
Solidarity.
I would like Ed's opinion on this.
I did go through this with Ed. He actually approved the letter.
I have no legal concerns with the letter whatsoever.
Thank you.
It doesn't do anything to change the village's legal position in any way, shape, or form. I did work with Mac on this. I edited some of the stuff out of there. But I think if you want to send one, I have no objection to this one.
Okay.
Does everybody want to send a letter?
Yeah, I'm fine with sending of the letter. You know, and it specifies here that obviously we can't afford to continue the fight. So, I mean, we're explaining why we can't continue the fight, but, you know, the fact that we're standing behind them, I think is a good thing.
And they know why we're not continuing. They already know that. Dan, do you want to say something?
Yeah.
No, I don't have a problem with sending a letter. The other thing, what the mayor just mentioned, wouldn't the city be offended by that? You know, we're just giving them support with a letter, but we're not putting anything into it.
They already know we're not giving them any money. They know we backed out. They know we're not involved any longer. It's not a surprise.
No,
I had several conversations with counsel for all of those entities, and they certainly understand, you know, they also understand the difficulty that they face in trying to get these people to change their mind. And I think I spoke to all of you about that.
yes.
So they're well aware of the circumstances and of what my legal opinion was with respect to moving forward.
See, I have no problem. I have no, you know, I have no problem with sending the letter as long as it's not going to offend them. That's all. Okay,
I
that's
don't
all.
s- I
That's
don't see
my only
that
concern.
happening. I think personally, not legally, but personally, I think it's a pretty nice gesture.
Okay, then I have no problem supporting that.
Okay, so I don't want to, if we approve this, and I don't know if we're going to do it, to take it to a voter consensus, Ginny, but I don't want to burden Shantae with this because it's an election week and she's also our election supervisor or whatever your additional job responsibility is for the next 10 days or so. So if it would help you, Shantae, and if it's okay with Mario, I would be very happy to, if you guys approve this letter, to pull those names off those two cities' websites, personalize each one of these, print them on letterhead and bring them off and drop them off at Village Hall for, you could have everyone come in and sign it. I don't want to burden you with this at all.
I have no problem as long as I have all the commissioners on it and signing it. Yes.
If you read the
I
backup, it's
know.
on
I'm
there.
just,
You're going to all sign it.
Can't do any harm, but I don't know that I would want somebody to send me a letter saying, you know, I'm glad you're paying my way because I'm not going to pay my share.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I was raised to send thank you notes when people do something nice to me, and I still do it to this day.
I would say
Actual
that.
cards in the mail with a stamp.
Everybody agree to send the letter?
I have no problem sending it. I have no problem sending the letter.
Okay, so send out the letter.
Okay, Shantae, I'll get that to you in the next day or two. I'm kind of tied up tomorrow. It'll probably be Thursday or Friday. Okay.
Thirteen C, you wanted to discuss? Commissioner Kennedy?
13C. Oh, that's, you gave it a
Add it
number.
on.
You gave it a number. Yeah, so, okay, so we have in our code, in section 18.10 of the Land Development Code, there's a section there about construction bonds, and you guys may remember this. the commission that voted through the construction ordinance? I can't remember. No, you and I were, I know, and Dan was. I'm just not sure if Ginny, or I'm not sure. So at any rate, read it. Section 18.10 of the Land Development Code is regards construction bonds. A construction bond is, and it's in our code already. It's a bond where if you have to put a bond in with the village. So if you damage public property during the course of construction, the repairs are made from that bond, a stop work. It's all very detailed out. A stop work order, the repairs have to be made. It comes out of there and the homeowner has to replenish the bond. So there's always a $5,000 bond while work is being done. I think it's kind of a standard thing. It's in our code already. There's just one little hitch to it. It says in the code, I don't know if I wrote the exact wording down here. I didn't, but it basically says in our code that it's up to the building official to determine when that is applied. It's not an automatic thing. It's not, Art, you live on Griffing and you're going to tear your house down and build a new one, and heavy equipment's going to be coming in and, drama, right? And you live on a median that is very likely could get severely damaged. And it's happening, by the way, it's happening right now as we speak. So it's up to the building official, and the building official, remember, is not our employee. The building official is with CAP, right? It's up to the building official to determine if that bond is going to be required. And it's not happening. I don't know if the building official is even considering it and deciding not to do it, or if the building official is not aware it's in the code. I hope that's not the case. Or if the building official just isn't doing it, I don't know. But it's happening and our medians are getting damaged. And then it starts a whole process of, we had trees get knocked over somewhere. Didn't a tree get knocked over? Yeah, on 117th Street. And then it's a process of going to them and saying, did you do it? And it's a whole big thing. Whereas in our code, it's provided for right up front. It's just not being done. So I'd like to put that on the agenda next month, have Mario have a chance to talk to the building official about it, what best practices might be, and decide if we want to do something that might involve a rewrite of that section somehow, that we would require it in certain circumstances. I don't know. Or if it would be administrative procedural kind of changes, but it's not being done and public property is being damaged. And then I'm not sure it's all being taken care of after the fact.
And I'm sorry, just for clarification, you want this as part of the dwelling unit?
No, just as a
ordinance?
separate.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I
as a
thought we
separate-
were
No, I'm
talking
sorry.
about the dwelling
As a
unit. thing.
separate.
Okay.
topic.
Okay, I can definitely look into that and bring that back.
I have no problem with that. I didn't know that wasn't being done. So thank you for bringing it up, Commissioner Kennedy.
I didn't know it wasn't being done either. Someone brought it to my attention. I went around, looked at some stuff, and I knew that recently there was a problem on 119th between 5th and 6th, 5th and 6th. No, Griffing and 5th. There was a problem on 117th Street where the new construction's going in. There's an issue down here on Griffing. I'm not certain what the extent of any of that damage was. I think some was worse than others, but I just want to make sure that our public property is being protected.
No, because I thought that would fall under the same ones we have with the people that have to put a bond if they have a party. I didn't think we didn't have one for that. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank
It's
you.
in there. It's just, it's a little loosey goosey. So we'll discuss it next meeting, but I wanted to put it on the agenda, make sure you're all aware, so you have time to do your own research and Mario can talk to the building official and maybe we can figure out a way to do that better.
Okay. Are there any announcements, Mario?
No, okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Just that you said for.
We have a meeting tomorrow night. Do we want to make it? We have a resiliency meeting tomorrow night?
Yeah, I announced earlier in the meeting, Miami-Dade County has a resiliency flooding meeting. It starts at 6 p.m. and it goes on to 7:30. They'll be here at the village. They stopped by earlier. They're going to have like 6 or different tables with different stations and things for people to do at each table. So I'm not exactly sure what they're doing, but they'll have the room kind of set up for it.
And it's here.
Yeah, it's here in the lockup.
And also you mentioned that there's going to be the swearing in process. I don't think the residents know when that's going to be. So do you know when that's going to be?
No, I don't.
No.
Are you anticipating swearing them in at some kind of official function or just taking the village hall and get sworn in individually?
No, we'll have a the idea is to have a special meeting where they will be sworn in and then they will take a vote to accept the the results of the election, the certified results from the county.
The new commission does that.
Correct.
Okay.
Make a
Is there a
motion.
motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
And seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Hammelberg. All in favor, say aye. Have a very pleasant night. Paul, thank